Welcome to this brief video that is going to go through the past papers for ACCA paper P3, to go through the syllabus areas in detail and discuss how often each of them gets examined and a little bit about how. There are a number of different syllabus areas, 9 of them under the P3 syllabus areas. Some of them A, B and C, looking at the big picture for an organisation. Some of them D, E, F onwards, looking at more detailed. So let's have a begin then. Let's start by having a look at Section A. Section A is on what's called the strategic position of an organisation. The strategic position of an organisation basically looks at what is happening at the moment. And we will break it down. On the course, we break this down into a number of different areas. So, for example, one of the areas that we look at is what's happening in the outside world. Are things getting easier for the company? Are things getting harder? Is there more competition? Is there a recession? What's going on that might affect the organisation? So the outside world is one of the areas we look at. Another one is what's going on inside the company. Are there particular things that the company is good at? Are there particular things that the company is bad at and perhaps need fixing? We will look at some financial analysis. We will see this again later on in the syllabus areas, but part of the strategic position is how well is the company doing financially? And another big area of strategic position is what do our stakeholders want? Who are they and what is it they want from our organisation? So in the strategic position, we're going to try and find out who the stakeholders are, what they want, what are we doing well and what we're doing badly at the moment, and what's happening in the outside world that might make it more difficult for us in the future or might make it easier for us in the future. Now, you can see there have been 6 papers so far, and this has been tested on all of them. Not only that, it has been part of the compulsory question. It's been question 1, part A, on every single paper. In some papers, it has also turned up in other questions as well. And because of that, you can see average marks per paper. The papers it appears on, which in this one is all of them, 34. So 34% on what is happening at the moment. Now that's always a very, very good thing for you as a student, because the examiner will have to tell you what is happening. So what he's looking for you to do here is to understand what he's told you. He tells you some facts about the outside world. Well, what do they mean for the company? He gives you some numbers. Well, what do they mean for the company? So it's a very, very practical area, understanding what's going on. The second area of the syllabus, Section B, is about what's called strategic choices. Strategic choices, again, have been tested on all of the first 6 papers. And they have always been in question 1. Again, they have appeared on other parts of the paper as well, but they've always been in question 1, usually question 1, part B. So part A is on the position, part B is on the choice. Strategic choice is exactly what it sounds like. What should you do next? So in strategic position, we say what's happening at the moment. Are things going to get better or are things going to get worse? Strategic choice, so what are you going to do in the future? This is where you have to come up with practical solutions to problems. So you know what's happening at the moment because you've done that strategic position. Here is what the company should do about it. Strategic choice. Now, again, like Area A, on every exam, in question 1, another 20 marks. You can see between those first 2 areas, we've got over 50% of the paper, or at least 50 marks on the paper already, on very practical areas. Section C, strategic action. This is more to do with making sure the strategy actually works. So once you've decided what you're going to do, how do you actually make sure that it works? You can have the best idea, this is what the company should do next. But if you implement it poorly, then actually it's not going to help. So strategic action, now this one you can see, Area C has not been tested as often. Only 3 times in the first 6 papers, and only in the compulsory question once. So on the papers that it has been included in, the average marks have been 11.7. That does not mean 11.7 marks on each of the 6 papers. It's only appeared on 3 papers. So that average is only for those 3 papers. I couldn't see the point in doing an average for papers that it hasn't appeared on. So that one, although important, is obviously nowhere near as important as Section A and Section B. If the first 3 syllabus areas are about strategy, about the big picture, the remaining ones are much more about details. Now, these tend to be particular things within a company. Not the entire strategy is wrong. The company's basically doing the right thing, but maybe 1 or 2 small pieces aren't working as well as they could do. Sometimes those 1 or 2 small pieces can be fixed on their own. Sometimes they actually might be leading to the entire company having problems. So the areas that we're going to be looking at. Section D, business process change. Business processes are basically the way that things happen inside an organisation. For example, imagine that I go to the bank and I apply for a loan. I apply to borrow some money from the bank. The business process is what actually happens to my application. Who looks at it? What are they looking for? Do they then pass it on to somebody else? What is it that they look at? Do they do any checks on me, any background checks on me? If I want to borrow some money and they say, no, you can't borrow that amount for whatever reason, do they simply say, no, you cannot borrow anything, goodbye? Or do they say, you cannot borrow a large amount, but we'll let you borrow a smaller amount? If it's a smaller amount, where does that smaller amount come from? How do they come up with that figure? So the idea behind business processes is what goes on inside the bank when they are looking at my application to say whether I should get a loan or not and how much that loan should be for. Now, in the exam, business processes tend to be one of 2 things. Often they're both, but there'll be at least one of these. One thing will happen is that they are inefficient. They take a long time unnecessarily. And if they take a long time, they cost more money. So my application for a loan from the bank gets looked at by 75 different people. Yeah, that would be very, very inefficient. It would take a very long time and cost a lot of money. So you would say, look, that's the wrong way of doing it. You should be able to do it faster than that. And you would have to tell them what to do. Now, the other thing is, as well as being inefficient, it might also be ineffective. I am the customer. If my application is going to be seen by 75 different people, it may well take 6 months before they've all ticked their boxes and signed the bits of paper they need to do, by which time it's too late. I wanted the loan now, and you're going to take 6 months to give it to me. So what will I do? I will go to a different bank because I'll get fed up waiting for you. That's what I'll do. So we might well have to identify that a process is inefficient, or perhaps a process is ineffective, or perhaps both. And in either case, we will probably have to say, this is what's wrong with it at the moment, and this is what I suggest you do instead. Notice a suggested practical solution. So Area D on business process change.